Hello and welcome to Celtic World, the Celtic YouTube show and podcast for fans all around the world of the mighty Celtic. So whether you're in Montrose or Montpellier or Johnston to Jakarta, you're all very welcome here, and you're all in a safe space to talk about some pretty bad stuff that happened at the weekend. But yeah, getting on to that in a bit. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that there is no bald Northern Irishman present. So that means Gav's away. And I'm sure Dave's maybe got a story to tell us about that shortly. But I'll be your host for tonight, and I'll do my best not to talk too much crap. The presentation of slides and all that might be a little bit dodgy, but we'll give it a good crack. So welcome to everyone in the comments, and welcome. First we'll go to Martin, Hong Kong. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, keeping good. Yeah, just a bit tired after a sleepless night. So fighting off the ninjas after watching that. But yeah, it's a bit of a tossing and turning. Probably going through my head.
Yeah. And David in Bangkok, I believe you had an interesting experience watching the game with our glorious leader.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Martin. Hi, folks in the chat.
Hi.
Yeah, we had the bold Gav came to Bangkok for the weekend to watch the game at the home of the world famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club. We're all very excited to have, El Presidente coming to coming to see us, but sadly the performance let us down. So at least it was an early kickoff, so we're able to have a good few beers and wasn't too hungover this morning. So yeah, pretty gutted overall, but it was great to see him. And I hear, Martin, you might be coming to Bangkok later on this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's rumblings of us getting a special day off for a Monday. All the teachers are getting a Monday off in December. So most of the Celtic fans here are employed by the schools. So we're looking forward to trying to get over on, I think it's Hearts around the 7th or 8th of December. And we've been looking around, booking flights, and hopefully we'll get a good crowd over. A couple of people are checking their timetables, making sure that the schools aren't giving them an extra Saturday to work instead of the Monday. But so we'll see what we'll do. But a lot of people, a lot of encouraging noises coming from the boys. But then that's when they have a few pints in them. When you have to pay for the flights, that's when the rubber meets the road. But it'll be a great time.
Yeah, did you watch the game in a supporters club, Martin, or were you at home on the couch?
Yeah, at the supporters club up in Forbes, up in Kennedy Town, over on the west side of the island. Yeah, big crowd. You know, when there's a big crowd, they're disappoint us. So, yeah, we had a big crowd out. A couple of families turned up as well. A couple of the wags were there. So yeah, it was good. But it turned into a bit of a procession, a bit of a funeral march. To be honest, there was no atmosphere. There was nothing to get anybody up off their seats for, except for to swear and walk out the door. But yeah, it would have been a good atmosphere because there was quite a lot of us there. And it's the big game, isn't it? It's the first one of the year. Everybody's been looking to get back into it.
And it's great. And it's great to get an early kickoff, but unfortunately, it didn't live up to expectations. So hello to everybody in the chat. We've got a few of the regulars in there today. We've got Tam Max, so hello Tam. Who else we got here? Paddy Lavery's there. Oh, that's not the right one. Morning all. Morning to you, Paddy. G-Doc's in the chat. And a number of other ones as well. So hello everyone in the chat. We'll try and keep this as interactive as possible. And we'll try and get through the subject matter as best we can. So we'll start with the game itself. And I spent a bit of time today. I was in the pub myself last night, and I had a few beers, to be fair, and I didn't realise quite how bad it was until I rewatched it today to try and pull some highlights from it, and I really struggled. I can tell you, to find anything to even talk about. It was one of the poorest Glasgow derbies I think I've ever seen. But we'll start from the beginning and try and talk about it a bit. So this was the starting lineup. So we had Schmeichel, Ralston, Carter Vickers, Scales and Tierney at the back. McGregor, Hatate and Engels in midfield. Balikwisha, Nigrin and Maeda made up the front three, with Balikwisha making his debut. So, Martin, what was your first impressions when you saw the team?
It's a good team. How did they come out and play like that? It's shocking. The first 5 minutes, Rangers were rubbish. They were giving us the ball back every opportunity they could, and we weren't doing anything. We were just passing the ball back, going across the back, and then going up, giving them the ball. They were giving the ball back to us. It wasn't like I've never experienced a game as bizarre as it. Like, it was just, what's going on here? Nobody wants to go up the field, and I think maybe the atmosphere in the ground, because of what's been going on over the other side of town, has put them guys on nerves up, and that then go across to us as well. Was it catching? Because everybody was afraid of the ball. Nobody wanted to go up and have a. I remember there was Scales tried to cross it, and it deflected towards the goal, and so there's the shadow. We'll count that as the shadow on goal, because there was nothing happening. It was. But that team there, last year, if you put that team out, that would have been, well, except for the new guys, but that would have been a different game last year. Something's happened. I don't know whether it was getting dragged down and out of the Champions League, or getting dragged down with the nonsense that's going on with them boys over there. But it was a bizarre game. It didn't look like anybody wanted to win it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was pretty poor stuff, but we'll stick with the team lineup for now. David, what were you surprised to see Balikwisha making his debut, or were you expecting that? We don't really have many options in the wide areas just now.
Yeah, I must admit, I was. I think the first 11 kind of picked itself. I felt that we had to. I think the people that were not on the bench and it didn't make the squad at all. There was no Ida, no Kenny, no JSP, and I think even Yang didn't even come off the bench. So given the options that we had, I think it was fairly difficult to pick anyone else really. So I think it shows you how much we're struggling this year. We're having to shoehorn. I mean, everyone knows Nigrin's not a right winger, but we were having to do what we could. I think we were hoping for Balikwisha to hit the ground running. I mean, it was his first game, and there was no. I'm not going to criticise him, but it was a challenging lineup, I think, because we had no other options. We kind of knew that, with the likes of Tierney, I think Trusty's got this injury. So, it was pretty much to be starting the season so relatively weak. We're praying in the next 6 hours for some miracles in the transfer window. But yeah, I thought it was that we didn't really have any other option, to be honest.
All right, so we'll move on to kind of like the first incident in the game, which came after about 12 minutes, I think. So it was a penalty shout for Rangers when their new signing, Miovski, ran onto a through ball. Kind of got goal side of Scales. And I must admit, when I saw this playing out, I was a bit worried that he was going to give the penalty. And when he didn't give the penalty, I was a bit concerned that he was going to give it in VAR. So I was pleasantly surprised that he didn't. But having watched it back a couple of times, I don't think it was a penalty. Martin, what do you think?
No, definitely not. At the time, but yeah, if any Rangers player goes down the box, you're automatically thinking, yeah, they're going to get it. And but yeah, and then you're waiting for. Then the ball it kicked off pretty quickly after. Everybody went, oh, I don't think VAR's even checking that. But yeah, it looked like he tried to get in front of him, throw himself down. It looked pretty innocuous. He was going for it that whole run.
Yeah, and you can see there, David. He's putting it. He's kind of initiated the contact by sticking his leg between Scales' legs there. So definitely no penalty. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. There was no, it was blatant diving. But the only concern is, of course, every time they dive. I mean, if you look at the referee's performance for the majority of the game, I thought I wouldn't have been surprised if this had happened maybe 10, 15 minutes later. It probably is something the referee would have given, and knowing our luck with the VAR, probably wouldn't have been rescinded. So it was the right decision. We'd have been squealing if it had been given, but given how bad the referee was, and I don't want to make too much of an issue, blaming the referee for our terrible performance, but there were several times throughout the game where he really, some of the the decisions, Diomande and other things, I was really happy that this happened in the first 10 minutes rather than in the last 10 minutes, because I'm sure it would have been a different decision by the ref.
Yeah, you're probably right. You can see it from that picture there. He's took a really bad and poor dive, and yeah, obviously Mayopsi's going to fit in well there. You can tell. Any shout there, Martin, for a yellow card for diving?
Well, there was he initiated the contact and then he fell over. So, is it a dive? But they did come together. If he hadn't kicked Scales and just fell over, then yeah, definitely a yellow. But because he kicked Scales, I suppose he has to go over. But it happens. It happens in every game nowadays. So,
all right. Well, we'll move on from that. Yeah, so nothing much else happened around about the 32nd minute when Rangers had the ball in the net from an in-swinging free kick from Tavernier. You can see from this picture here, it's not very clear from that one, but you get a better view behind the goal. So Souttar's jumped between Scales and Carter Vickers and answers on a postcard, David, what is Michael doing there? I don't know. He's kind of just rushed off his line and got in no man's land, and the ball's headed into the empty net by Souttar. So poorly defended by the centre halves. I think it was a poor bit of goalkeeping as well.
Yeah, Schmeichel didn't cover himself in glory. I mean, no one covered himself in any glory in the first half at all. But I think there's a lot of people saying it's time for Sinisalo to get a bit of a run in the team. Although I guess we've got the international break, and then we'll see after that. I think the next game is away to Kilmarnock. I mean, it was very poor, and it was only probably a bit of luck that he wasn't hugely offside. I mean, it was clear, but I think it was probably more luck rather than excellent defending on our part.
Yeah, not great, Martin, but thankfully the flag went up. I mean, I think we got away with one there because there wasn't much. It was offside. It was a correct decision, but it was pretty close, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think the linesman seen it, funnily enough. It was definitely a VAR call. We would have lost the game if it wasn't for VAR. And I think we probably would have lost a couple of cup finals in the last few years if it wasn't for VAR as well, because it's really catching these guys on that they're blatant cheating. But this one wasn't so blatant. But a couple of the cup finals, we got the VAR on our side, and we've got some justice for a change. But he was offside, and he was jumping up between the two of them. But then he did get a bit of advantage from being further on from them. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to chastise the defenders too much. If somebody's got like half a yard in front of them because he was offside, it's hard to pull them up from not being. If they got there ahead of him, then he would have been onside. So yeah, so he's offside. It doesn't really matter if he gets his head till it where he puts it. If the VAR's called it offside, then I don't really tend to look back and blame the defenders for not clapping it. But yeah, I don't know. Schmeichel's just had a bit of rush of the blood there, and not got anywhere near it, has he? But then the still photos are always a bit misleading as well. You know what I mean? It's happened in the blink of an eye.
I thought it was interesting.
So, David, what do you think of this?
Sorry, I was just going to say I thought it was interesting from the first minute of the game yesterday. That Martin clearly changed his tactics. Previously it was all about playing out from the back and sort of trying to pretend that his team could play football. Whereas what happened is that it was clear with all the long throws, it was back to chaos ball. It was back to, let's just hoof the ball into the box and see what carnage we could provide. There was no football played by them. And I actually played to Scale's strengths. I felt in the first 2 or 3 minutes, Scale's passing was predictably bad. But once it comes to just pure getting your head on the ball and defensive duties, I felt they played to his strengths yesterday. But yeah, for me, I thought it was interesting that they straight away they went from pretending to be a football team. As soon as we had Tav Penn and the rest of them playing, it was straight back to hoofball, chaos ball, and just trying to the long throws and everything. So defensively we were up for it, but yeah, at least it's a pity that Rodgers couldn't change his tactics. I guess we'll come to that a wee bit later as well. But he's so entrenched in his 4-3-3 that clearly doesn't work with the current squad. But yeah, that was interesting, I thought, yesterday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute when we get through. Oh, sorry. Oh, you go, Martin.
I've never seen the Tavernier do these long throws before, but he was they were firing like long through. I mean, has he been away training all summer for these throws? I went, this is not the normal sort of run up that the Tavernier has. He takes free kicks now, but now he's like a long throw specialist all of a sudden as well now. So it looks like, and I haven't seen him doing it in the highlights of any of the other games they've had this season. So that was a bit strange as well, just seeing him bombing like these long throws in out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a bit of a new one, and I think David's right. Yeah, I think David's right. I think it played into Scales' hands, and I think that was why Scales is probably the man of the match from a Celtic point of view. I would say anyway. Despite the fact, as David says, his passing was pretty average, and he did get caught out here because I reckon Suter was his man here, and he's let him steal half a yard on him and get his head in the ball first. So thankfully that one was offside. So we'll move on. There was nothing much else happened in the first half, so it was into the second half next. And again, I was searching for some highlights for Celtic. And didn't really see anything. This is one where Hatate got on the ball at the edge of the box and drove a shot kind of low and hard, but it was straight at the keeper. Then there was this one where James Forrest slipped a ball through to Shin Yamada, who'd come on, and he just miscontrolled it slightly, and it just ran away from him before he could get a shot and goal. And then Kieran Tierney had an overhead kick from a bit of broken play, but it was very, 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 very stop start, wasn't it? We seem to have lost Martin. I don't know what's happened to him, so it's just me and you, Dave. So we're not. not great. I felt as if we were a better team in the second half, slightly, and that's not really saying much. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that apparently between us, we managed to break a world record yesterday. It was the lowest combined XG score in the history of since they started doing XGs. I think they get 0.15 and we get 0.17. I'm glad Mahesh is here. He'll be the one to give us all the XG facts, etc. I've never quite understood that. I saw last week when Coventry were playing Queen's Park Rangers, they beat them 7-1, and somehow they had an XG of 1.5 or something. So, but I mean, you don't need an XG to know that we were utterly toothless up front. Both teams were fairly hopeless. I think we were marginally better in the second half. I felt that Yamada, I don't know if he's a goal scorer. I think he desperately needs a goal for his confidence. But I felt when he came on, at least we had a bit more urgency, a bit more kind of oomph about us. I felt Maeda was a wee bit back to what we had seen before. But one of the things that I'd kind of noticed in my kind of drunken haze yesterday was that there was no concerted pressing. You would get Maeda chasing after somebody, and then they would just do like one pass to someone who was like 10 yards of space. There was no the pressing that we were so good at for the majority of last year. Was missing. Everything was wrong pretty much about yesterday. Apart from okay, we got a clean sheet against Dons.
Yeah. So that was about it, really. There was one sort of heart in the mouth moment later when McGregor got caught in possession right in the edge of our box in the last couple of minutes of the game, but we got away with that. So I might touch on some individual performances here and see what you guys think, and pick out a few guys who I've been looking through the social medias today, and these are the sort of big topics. And the first one that I want to talk about is Kieran Tierney. Martin, there's been a lot of concern expressed with Kieran Tierney, how he got taken off again in the 70th minute today, but to be honest with you, he could have been taken off in the 50th minute. It looked like after the 50th minute, walking back from trying to get back to his position again, it was like me walking to the toilet at 3 o'clock in the morning for a pee. It just looked as if he was completely gassed. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because he's not been injured in a while now, and he's got a full pre-season training behind him, but he doesn't seem to be getting any fitter. What do you think about that, Martin?
It's not the homecoming that anybody would have wished for him. Like he's walked into the team. The team seemed a bit down, but yeah, he's the first game. I was there watching him live, and there was nothing. There was like he was just passing back and forth with Maeda. There wasn't a lot going on, and then he got a bit better the next game. We got a couple of crosses in. We don't have any big guys to send the crosses into yesterday, so I don't know what his game plan would have been there if he had to get up the pitch a bit more. But yeah, and then coming off early. I know there's the Scottish game's a little bit less graceful than some of the bigger leagues, but it's the Russian, the players seem to need to be fitter, I think, up in Scotland, because there's a lot more rushing and cutting down, and they get to play a little bit more at a more sedate pace down in Arsenal, I would say. So is he just getting used to we coming back into the league that's like, I'm not saying they're any fitter or fat, but the more of a pacey game, I would say, in Scotland. And if you watch the Italian games or you watch the Premier League, it seems a little bit more slower to build up. But I don't know. It's not working out as well as we expected it to. But it's 3 or 4 games in the league until it. But it's still. But yeah, coming off early, like I don't know what that's. I don't know what could be going on there, but he's not injured, and he's done the training. How's he not lasting a bit longer? How's he burnt out? So so much.
Yeah, David, any concerns about Kieran Tierney?
Yeah, I think that I was listening on social media earlier on today, and one of the people was saying that they think maybe he's got a mental issue about his level of fitness. I think the first half he went down with a kind of dodgy tackle, and everyone's thinking, "Oh, there we go again." But for me, there is a mental issue. He doesn't seem willing to go at full throttle. As Martin said, in the first couple of games, he was beating players, he was getting to the byline, he was showing the trickery, showing the skills that we know he has. But there was one, I can't remember if it was the first or second half, where their winger just went past him as if it was me he was kind of running past. And that was something that kind of scared me. So for me, I think we need to build on his confidence. And if he gets an injury, he gets an injury. But this kind of he's trying his hardest. Obviously, he's trying his hardest. But I don't know. For me, there's a kind of mental thing that's kind of blocking him from giving us the Kieran Tierney that we saw before we went to Arsenal. Because there's no doubt that since he's been to Arsenal, he's a better footballer, but he's not got that oomph that that he had when he was kind of injury free.
Yeah, I think it's a good point Paddy Lavery makes here. It does cost us a substitution in every game, and it means we're having to reshuffle the back four. We've got a backup left back now. Who was able to come on and replace him yesterday, but so we didn't have to move Scales out of position. But I think there has to be a concern that this doesn't turn into another James McCarthy situation where he just can't get fit. I think if we get to a point where he can't play any more than 70 minutes and just can't get any fitter, then we need to think carefully about who's starting at left back. And give him a chance to get fit. And G-Doc as well. I was quite strong in this as well. There's no way he should be going to the Scotland camp this week. There's been a lot of talk about maybe it's time for him to retire from international football and concentrate on Celtic. But if he can't play 90 minutes for Celtic, he shouldn't be going to play any minutes for Scotland. That's my view anyway. Martin, would you be asking him to withdraw from the Scotland squad?
I don't think I think the players have all the power in that sort of relationship. That's no one. And some of them absolutely love going and playing for their countries all over wherever they're going. So I don't think. If it's the doctor, yeah, but I think if the manager starts coming in and pulling people out of national games, but if you sit them down and talk to them, going, if you're struggling at half time at Celtic, you shouldn't be going on. Yeah, he should be making this decision himself and going, no, it's not right. I should get back in the gym or whatever, or go and see someone about his own level of fitness before. But then it's the other one where they say game minutes and getting you more fit as well. But you know what'll happen? They go off to the international games and then somebody throws a rugby tackle on them and then they're out for three months. It's happened so many times to us, but whatever country they go off to play in. But yeah, can't tell him what to do, but if he knows he's not right, then he shouldn't be going.
Yeah, that's right. You would like to see him making that decision for himself, wouldn't you? Yep. Probably the next guy I wanted to have a word with about who caught my eye just by how poor he was Rio Hatate. The Rio Hatate for me has never played a good game against Rangers since his very first one. And that was the midweek one where he scored 2 goals and a 3-0 win for us. I just don't think he's got the physical resilience to play in this game, and he just seems to get bullied out of it. And he's our only creative influence. And if he disappears out of the game, then we're really struggling. I think that had a lot to do with how how difficult we found it to create chances yesterday. And we need him to be on his game, and I think he's just too inconsistent for me. David, what do you reckon about Rio Hatate's performance?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always been Hatate's biggest fan, on this podcast, and but it's difficult to argue with anything you've said, Stephen. Apart from that first game where he scored 2 cracking goals, he's tended to be missing a little bit. In saying that, yesterday, what I felt at least was he was making a bit of an effort, sort of, to put himself about. I think in terms of McGregor was, we're talking sort of. I would say McGregor was worse than Hatate yesterday, but clearly, Hatate's job is to be the main creative force in the team, and he wasn't doing it. I mean, even yesterday, most of the time he was getting the ball, and his first instinct was to pass backwards, and that is so unlike him. So I'm not making excuses for him, but I think there was a lot of coaching that I think Rodgers has to take a lot of blame for as well. When Rodgers was interviewed after the game and he was saying, "Oh, this isn't a Celtic team. We don't play the ball backwards." I mean, that's bollocks. I mean, that's what Rodgers has been coaching them to do certainly from the start of the season. We're so boring to watch. So for me yesterday, when Hatate was passing the ball backwards, almost without even looking up, it was passing it backwards, and then McGregor just sort of 10 feet in front of Carter Vickers, added nothing to the game. Absolutely nothing. And then Engels, was another sort of uninspiring, if you like, performance. But yeah, to answer your question, I think Hatate had another poor game against the Huns.
Yeah, I mean, since you've mentioned Rodgers, let's touch on the manager here, and try and to try and see where he lands in the blame scale, shall we say. He said after the game, as you said, David, that this wasn't a Celtic team, and they definitely weren't being coached to pass the ball backwards. And I know that it sounds pretty hard to believe, because that's what they did all day, really. But we did. I mean, the flip side of that is we did score 112 goals last season, including a 5-0 win in the Champions League. So that Rodgers' system can produce goals. It's not, I've heard a lot of people saying today, "Oh, it's just so boring, it's so dull." But it's not always like that. My feeling is the malaise that settled around the club through the transfer window is spreading onto the pitch now. And a lot of people they're just scared. They're just scared to make that difficult forward pass. And Rodgers talks about this all the time as well. You've got to be brave. You've got to be brave to take the ball under pressure and make the forward pass, and have the confidence in your own ability to get it through the lines. But I'll get your view on Rodgers, Martin. Do you think he's kind of hit a brick wall with a Celtic team? And I don't even want to say this, but there's a lot of people online at the moment calling for him to be moved on, and saying it might not be such a bad thing if he leaves. Where do you stand on that?
I don't know. I don't know if changing the manager. I don't think we'll change the manager. I think he's there for the season. Has he lost a lot of credibility? Yeah, probably. I think the whole panic ban of Ida at the end of last season, I think that was a lot on him. I think he may have pushed. I need money. I need this £12 million striker to come in. He's come in. He's not made it, and now he's not. The board didn't seem to back him up as much this year. Was that because what one bad buy is not the end of the world. He's got another 60 million worth of players there, I think, in the last few years. But he has to take that on board that he's picked. He got a bad player in. and he seems to be struggling. But same with Hatate, once in a while he does a bit of brilliance and he pops a goal in. It didn't happen for him there yesterday, and to be honest, we could have had any striker you wanted up the front yesterday. He wouldn't have got the ball. There was just nobody going forward with the ball. It doesn't matter how good your striker is if nobody's passing the ball forward. I think Maeda nearly give a penalty away. He was so far back at some points yesterday. It was so he was coming back too far. The coaching, I only coach him to pass forward. No, you don't. We've seen them playing it through the back a long time. It just seems to be that's all they're doing now. I remember complaining once that they were playing it along the back, and then I think it was against Lyon a few years ago, and they scored a goal, and it was like 200 passes before they scored this goal, and it's like now one of the best goals ever. But I was complaining at the time that they weren't going forward quick enough. But they've done that forever. Like, and anybody that is a good football on the team, knock it around the back for a bit and bring it up. But there was no bringing it up. It was just knocking it around the back and then giving it away and then getting it back and then just rinse and repeat for that whole game. But he hasn't been backed up. I don't know who they would have got in as a striker, but it wouldn't have mattered yesterday who the striker was. Could have had Messi and Ronaldo up front. They would have been scratching his ball.
I think for me, one of the challenges we've got is that I mentioned earlier on that he's not willing to change his tactics. So when you say, quite rightly, Stephen, that last year we were averaging 3 goals a game. If you look at our front three last year compared to our front three yesterday, or for the front three we've had for the whole of this season so far, it's night and day. When we had Kuhn, when we were playing in the Champions League last season, the first couple of games, we had Kuhn who was on fire, we had Kyogo, and we had Maeda. We had 3 of the fastest, probably our fastest strike force in living memory. Compare that to what we've got just now. Negrin's clearly not a right winger, so he's been kind of shoehorned in there. Balikwisha, there's talk about whether or not he's actually a left winger or he's maybe more like a number 10, like Negrin. But there was no pace. There was nothing that we could. So for me, I think one of the things that Rodgers, he's not willing to change his tactics. So we play 4-3-3, and with the McGregor and Hatate and Engels, it wasn't working. What's happening to Bernardo? What's happening to other options? Yang could have come on, but with 2 minutes to go, he brings on McCowan. I felt his subs yesterday were not the best, and I think for a few games now, that's been the case. Look at the 2 games against the pub side from Almaty, couldn't score a goal in the proverbial barrel, and it's been poor, and I just don't think he's willing to change his tactics. There's a lot of stubbornness as well about GSP, Inamura, these people who are arguably board signings rather than his signings. He's frustrated the same as all of us, but I'm not sure. In terms of yesterday, he was more to blame than other people, I would have said.
Yeah, I take your point, but when I was rumbling through the socials today, I came across a highlight video of the corresponding fixture last year, which was at Celtic Park, and we took the absolute trousers off our Rangers, beat them 3-0. Kyogo was on fire, Maeda was on fire, Kuhn was ripping them up, and Rodgers has been making that excuse today. The fact that they've lost players, so they've lost out of that team. They've lost Kyogo. They've lost Kuhn. and they're having to play Maeda through the middle. So the whole team, the whole shape of the team is different. And I understand people saying he should change his tactics, but change them to what? I'm not really sure, the options available to them on the bench. I mean, bad players are bad players. If you've not got any quality on the bench, then I'm not really sure that you're going to have many options available to you. Martin, could you see any tweaks he could have made during the game?
To be honest now, if he's got the system in there, knock it about, go up, get it across in, and what could you change it to? Put some long balls in, put some big balls in, but there's nobody big and strong enough up at the front, and nobody to hold the ball up neither. So yeah, there's nobody to bring on. There's Adam Ideas was a big striker, but he's not going to be back, I don't think. And even when they were knocking the ball up to him, he wasn't doing what you would expect. He wasn't holding up. But yeah, and that team yesterday, there was nobody. The only change you could make, the changes you could make is go a bit longer with the ball and sort of get it in the box a bit quicker. But Maeda's not a guy who's going to trap the ball and turn somebody. He's running onto the ball and knocking it in with the first touch. That's his sort of game. But I don't know. Yeah, the team he's got, the forwards he's got for to play a different style. Even the corners we were struggling in. We need all the defenders up for them. There's none of the strikers who are going to get their head onto the ball. They're all getting bullied out of it. So yeah, he's got that team. Yeah. He's got the passing around. He's got to get it in. He's got low. He has to put it in low for the guys to knock it in off the ground. But I don't think if he had a changed it just would have been two butchered teams knocking the ball around in the air. So it's bad enough just the one of them doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think let's hope over the course of the next 24 hours we do sign some players that give them more options. And I think, that's really the only thing we can do now is to try and get some more quality into the squad. To try and get us back to something like where we were in terms of that quality available to Rodgers that we were this time last year. So we'll have a look at the transfer window now. So we're in basically the last day of the transfer window, and I don't know about you guys, but it's fanciful. I think the sort of notion today on a lot of the socials and the message boards is that we might be signing 4 players today, but there's like no chance of that. We seem to be quite close to signing the boy from Anderlecht. Is it Olberg? But apart from that, I'm not sure we'll get anyone in. I've put a list up here of the ones we have signed. So we got Kieran Tierney on a free, Ross Doon on a free, Isaac English, no, I don't know either, from Morton, Benji Negrin, 1.7 million, Callum Osman free, Inamura, 250,000, Yamada, 1.5 million, GSP on a loan, Mikalanj Balakwisha, 5 million, and then Marcelo Sarachi on a loan with no option to buy, which is a bit bizarre, really. And players going out. There's a long list there. I'm not going to read through them all, but we got money for Marco Tilio. We got money for Nicholas Kuhn, money for Laga Bielka, and money for Kwon, if you believe that. And I had a look on Transfer Market today, and they seem to reckon that we've spent 8 million. And we've brought in something like 23 million. So, and I don't think that even includes any sell-on clause money that we got for the what do you call it, wee guy that went to Liverpool? Frimpong, the very man. So, David, what are you realistically expecting today? And maybe what would you like? But what are you realistically expecting?
Yeah, listen, I mean, even yesterday, apparently, O is off to a German club for £25 million. So potentially another £5-6 million in the kitty. Stephen, you called it 100% about 6 weeks ago on the show when you were saying how you predicted. I don't think you predicted it to be quite as bad a transfer window as it's been, but you were very clear about 6 weeks ago that let's not take anything for granted. We've got all this money in the kitty, but historically, we've never tended to to spend and build from a position of strength. So, what am I expecting when I wake up tomorrow morning? I'm expecting to be disappointed. I think that now that Gavin's not on the show today, I can use the word underwhelmed. I'm expecting nothing. I'm expecting. I mean, in terms of what we could have done yesterday, as you both said. I mean, if you don't have Kenny, if you don't have Ida, if you're not going to play Yang because he's hoping to go to Birmingham today. We have got limited options. So in terms of what am I expecting today, I'm expecting stories about, oh, we really tried, but it's so difficult to do business in the last day of the window. So probably Ida. I think he's on his second medical or something just now, so I think he's away. I'm expecting Yang to go. There's likes of Welsh, I think, and Amura will probably go out. So that'll be 4 people that leave the building. Are we expecting to get 4 people in? I don't see it. I think when the English transfer window closes at 7 o'clock, probably we've got 4 hours to maybe hoover up some options in the last 4 hours. But I mean, that's just, praying for miracles when, as I say, I think it's one advantage of being in Asia that I don't have to stay up till 11 o'clock at night, pressing F5 on the computer to get some updates. So, no, I'm expected to wake up tomorrow morning underwhelmed and, disgusted by our lack of, active work in the transfer window.
Yeah, you're right, David. I've never had confidence in our board to deliver what's required. Quite why we're sitting here out of the Champions League and still struggling to sign any players, seemingly, which we clearly need. I mean, notwithstanding any talk about Brendan Rodgers and his tactics and all the rest of it, the squad clearly needs refreshed. We still need replacement for Kyogo. We need a replacement for Kuhn. And in Kyogo's case, that was 6 or 7 months ago. So it's really not good enough. But Martin, what would your priority be? Say, for instance, you said, well, we're only going to get two players in today. What would your priority be?
I would take a striker. We need a striker. But then again, when you seen that list of recruits that came up, there's a lot of players that came in. And a few years ago, a load of people we'd never heard of, Kyogo and all came in. And they came in and they were on fire the minute they got here. Now we've got these. One of these guys could have caught fire, but these guys have not kicked the door in and started playing from day one. So there was a lot of guys came in, a couple of million. We've done it before. We've done it with Kuhn and we've done it with Kyogo, and we brought players. But the players we've brought in haven't caught fire. Shin's been just on the outskirts of doing anything. But I think it's hard to say that they're bad signings because it's just we're only four games into the league and they're still finding their feet, but it's just because they haven't came in running with it. So, and I'm sure there was some people lined up until we got skunked out of the Champions League. I'm sure there was a couple of players who suddenly you seen some of the players, some strikers signing for other teams the day after all the preliminary games were finished, and we're going, well, I'm sure one of those guys was meant to either go to us or go across the town if one of the two of us had it qualified. But yeah, I think we missed out on any of the players who were coming to play for the Champions League and we're waiting to see if we were in the Champions League. We've missed out on those guys, and then they're gone, and then we've got probably another panic buy or two to get in. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get anybody But yeah, I would prefer not to get anybody than to be another £12 million flop. So that's how fed up I am with the transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it'll be loan deals, if anything. Now, I think by the time we get this late in the window, it's becoming really, really late in the day to start negotiating transfer fees and all that sort of stuff. So, more likely to be loan deals than not now. Yeah, I'm expecting to wake up in the morning and be disappointed as well. But I'm not even sure. You know, if we don't sign anybody else other than what we've signed up to now, David, how do you think that's going to affect the rest of our season, or certainly our season up till January? Because we will get, by the time we get to January, we should have Alistair Johnson and Jota should both be back in consideration for the first team by January, hopefully. So I hesitate to say they'll be like new signings. I know it's an old Celtic cliche, that one, but how do you think the rest of the season looks if we don't sign anyone else?
Terrifying. You know, I think for me it would be like the COVID season. I mean, January is 4 months away. I mean, we're only the 1st of September today. You know, and I think one of the things that, you know, we seem to do is, like, you know, as long as we're 5 or 10 points ahead of the Huns, that seems to be our whole strategy. And, you know, when you look at where we were against Bayern Munich, like 5 months ago, you know, we were arguably 2 positions away from, you know, from beating Bayern Munich. You know, if we'd replaced Kyogo, if we'd got Tierney in the door playing at left back that night instead of you know, Taylor, you know, and then, you know, Bayern Munich go out in a close game against Inter Milan, who get to the final. You know, we were in such a position of strength 5 months ago, and if you look at what we've got just now, I mean, if Ida goes out the door, if Kenny goes out the door, we've got no options up front. You know, so what would we do realistically? You know, we're hoping that the rest of the teams take points off each other, because we've got no creativity. You know, where would the goals come from? You know, we have got a very strong defence. I think let's maybe see if Sinisalo gets a run in the team, but you know, it's difficult to get too positive if we haven't got 2 or 3 players in the next 10 hours, whatever it is. We desperately need a right winger, and we desperately need a striker. So at least if we get the striker, then that gives us the option of Maeda playing, you know, on the left-hand side. I think in terms of AJ, the timing of his injury has been horrific, because, you know, having, you know, with all due respect to Ralston, you know, it's been a massive drop-off. And we talk about people who've got courage. For me, AJ is one of those guys that, you know, even if he's not having his best game, he's still going to bomb down the right-hand side. You know, he's going to provide that option. Whereas, you know, with the best will in the world, for me, you know, Ralston hasn't been providing that. And then on the other side, you know, Tierney's having his, you know, his issues about how fit he seems to be. So if we've not signed a striker and a right winger, you know, by tomorrow morning, then yep, I think it's going to be a long 4 months.
If you remember during the week, Roger said Ida's going for a medical. He won't be sold unless there's a replacement. Yang's going down to Birmingham. He won't be sold without a replacement. If they sell those 2 guys and there's no replacement, then they're obviously not listening to him, and he's lost all credibility, because he said that during the week that they can't leave Celtic without a replacement. And then if we're sitting here tomorrow with 2 or more players leave and they don't have striking replacements for them, I don't think he'll hang around. I think if he's made that public statement and they don't get someone in it and they sell those 2 players, then he just looks like a clown.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he's been banging on long enough about what he needs, and he needs players, he needs refreshed, and he did. You're right, Martin. He was very, very clear about that. He wouldn't be allowing either to go or Yang unless replacements come in. So if they sell those two players from underneath him now, then he might find he's got no option but to walk. And you couldn't really blame him, could you, David?
No, not at all. No, I think the first time around when he left, when we were playing Hearts in the league and Hibs in the in the cup, when the treble was very much the league was still up for grab at that time, and he chose to leave at that particular time, and and he was vilified for it quite rightly. But if you look at what he's asking for, I think there was something on social media last week that they had quotes from Rodgers, from Ange, from Lennon, from Dyla, and they all said exactly the same thing, that I'm not doing my job properly because I'm not able to convince the board to spend any proper money on the players that I've identified. So I think if he goes, it would be it wouldn't be a massive surprise, and I think a lot of the Celtic fans would not blame him, because if we end up this transfer window without even Ida, Kenny, Yang, and no replacements, then the next couple of games will be absolute carnage. Quite rightly.
Yeah, Sean Maloney, come on down.
Yeah, we'll just be going there, getting 1-0 wins and sort of dragging us sales through to Christmas.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll see what happens the rest of the day, and we'll keep abreast of the situation as the developments come in. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I want to mention something we haven't talked about yet, and that was the Europa League draw, which happened on Friday. If anybody gives a fuck about that, I'm not sure if any of us really do, but this is it anyway. So we've gone against Crvena Zvezda, who are Red Star Belgrade and old money. Braga from Portugal, with Red Star away. Braga from Portugal at home. Sturm Graz from Austria at home. Midtjylland from Denmark away. Feyenoord away. Roma at home. Bologna away, and Utrecht at home. I mean, I know it's hard to get worked up about this competition. It's very much a runners-up prize. But David, anything there that floats your boat? You're looking forward to this at all?
No, I have to say the only one from a personal point of view, Braga is the favourite team of my daughter's best friend. So I think we might stay up and watch that one together. But no, I mean after the disaster of not qualifying for the Champions League, this is people were saying that Europa League's probably our actual level. If we haven't got replacements in by tomorrow, then I think we're going to quickly find out that we're nowhere near the Europa League level either. No, I can't get too excited by it. I think probably if we do get some players in, and if we start well, then we will. But for the moment, couldn't care less, to be honest. Really, just sad to say.
Yeah, it was hard looking.
What
at
about
that.
yourself, Martin? Will you be dragging yourself out of bed for any of these fixtures?
No chance. No, I won't be setting my alarm at 3:45 in the morning to get up for this nonsense. Yeah, it's just Roma, maybe a big team, but if we've got them early on in the group, it doesn't. It's not. You don't know how it's going to shape up. But yeah, it's a hard one. It'll be get up, look at the score. If it sounds like a decent game, I'll rewatch it. But no, it'll be hard. It's a hard ask for those games. But yeah, a lot. Utrecht at 4 in the morning. No, not big enough for that.
Yes, it'll be tough. But I guess it's European football, I suppose. I think if we do make a couple of signings today, maybe we can get a bit more positive about some of these games. Just before we go, we have touched on this slightly about the O transfer to Stuttgart. And I don't know if I must know nothing about football. And, there'll be plenty of folk in the comments that'll agree with that statement. But how is O worth £24 million? I saw that story today, and I was thinking maybe he's tearing it up in Belgium, and maybe he's doing really well over there.
How long has he played there?
He scored 10 goals in 2 seasons.
Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah.
Can anybody help me out there?
Yeah. No, he's done nothing of any remote. Like, as you say, I think in these last, since he joined Celtic, I think in the last 2.5 years, whatever, he's got about 15 or 20 goals. If that's getting you a £25 million move, then, I'm just baffled by it all. It's not even the English Premiership. They're paying for absolute numpties. Usually Germany are a bit more sensible when it comes to what they're willing to pay. But 25, and he's what, 24, so he's not even like a very young kid who's got gazillions of potential. If he goes for 25 million, then should we be asking for 10 million for Yang? Realistically, what are teams going to be asking us to spend in the next 10 hours for a striker? 10 goals last season. Absolutely mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah, if he goes for 25 million, then we're not getting any strikers.
Well. All right. So that's about us, I think, lads. We'll call it a day at that. So thanks very much for joining me tonight. It was a bit of a tough one, but a bit cathartic as well to talk it through. And it was a good laugh as well. So thanks very much. And thanks to everyone in the comments who joined in too. We've got 120 there watching live. So we're very grateful for anyone who tunes in. And if while you're here, chuck us a wee subscribe and a like if you can, and that would be very much appreciated. Other things we've got going on this week, later on today or tonight, wherever you are in the world, we've got the tactical analysis show with the Perth boys, Paul Massey and Anthony, and they'll be running through a more sort of in-depth tactical look at how the game panned out yesterday. And I don't envy their task doing that in any great depth. So, but I'm sure the boys will do a good job of that. And then I think, I'm not too sure what we're doing on Thursday, being an international break, but I'm sure there'll be something up on Thursday as well. So thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you all down the road. And hail, hail.
Hail, folks. Cheers.